続いては報告3、タイ王国における NTA の政策活用事例と題しまして、タイ王国国家経済社会開発庁社会データ事業開発課課長スパンナダ・ロウハチャイ様よりご発表をいただきたいと思います。So now I'd like to invite Dr. Lohachai to the stage.
Thank you, and I also like to thank the IPSS for inviting me here. So earlier, Dr. Mansimlai has talked about how NTA matches with the global agenda. Then Dr. Wasana bring us down to the regional level. Now let's have a look at a country level, which is Thailand. Okay, so basically, as Dr. Wasana has already mentioned, Thailand is also one of the countries that is aging very rapidly. And if you look at this graph, you can see that in terms of the speed of aging, Thailand is aging very fast compared to other countries. And particularly if you look at the countries who's already aged, these are all high-income countries. And Thailand is still the upper middle-income country. So now a lot of concerns goes around that Thailand would age before we get rich, right? So it's a big concern, and it's been quite a big concern for quite some time. So policymakers are sort of aware of the impact of the demographic transition that we will face, but we don't know the magnitude of it, how big is going to be the impact of it, how to measure it, and that's exactly where the NTA comes in, I think, because the NTA can be a very good tool to show how much that impact's going to be. And so I think for that reason, Thailand joined the NTA in 2006, but that was done by the research institute called the Thailand Development Research Institute, TDRI. So it wasn't until 2012 that the subcommittee on implementation of population policy and plan sort of agreed that the NTA should be done by government agency and should be done in a continuous and sustainable way. So that's where the NTA, the NESDC came into the NTA world. And so with that, in 2013, with a big support from Dr. Wasana here, who was at the UNFPA Thailand at that time, we had a pilot project to produce an NTA. And from that on, we started to produce NTA on a regular basis. And so during the pilot project, why they thought the NESDC would be the good agency to compute the NTA is actually because we are the producers of population projection data, national accounts data, and we also is an agency that does a lot of social indicators, including, like poverty and inequality data and all that. We are like the official sources of all these data. And so the first pilot project consists of staff from all these relevant divisions, and that's how we were able to manage to come up with the NTA data within that year. And so from that on, we are trying to use NTA for policy processes as much as we can. There are many occasions in which we can use the NTA, starting with using the NTA results as well as the projection of NTA for 2040. for the background paper to draft the long-term population plan for Thailand during the 12th National Plan. And then another one is to use the NTA for empirical support, empirical data to support policies by, the NESDC has a duty to support government or cabinet meeting to decide on policies every Tuesday. And whenever we have a chance to use the NTA as an empirical support for any implementation of the policies, we use that. And one of the examples would be to support for the child support grants. We use the public consumption, comparing the preschool age and the school age, and we see that there's a big gap between the government didn't support much for the children before the school age. So that sort of support the implementation of the child support grants, which gives out monthly supports for families with children aged 0 to 6. And because we're the producers of many reports and data, for example, poverty and inequality report, that's the annual report, and we also produce quarterly social situation reports that comes out every quarter. We try to sort of advocate NTA by incorporating NTA analysis into these reports. For example, we use the health consumption to show the health inequality in the poverty report in 2019. And we use sustainability of social protection using the NTA to be one of the 3 big articles for the quarterly social situation report of the first quarter of 2022. And then we also do something similar by producing policy brief, which are available on the NESDC website. And I think the biggest step that we are taking is the last one right here, that a little tie in here, that we're hosting together with the global NTA, hosting a global NTA conference in March next year in Bangkok. And hopefully we hope that this big conference would really expand our network and advocate NTA to the wider audiences, not only in Thailand, but also in the region, as hopefully globally. Right. So another way to look, there's this one study also led by Dr. Wasana here, is to study the utilization of NTA around the world. And in this study, they sort of break down use of NTA into 3 stages. The first one is basically just the producing of the NTA and display the data in different kind of ways. And another one is extension and modification. That's the second stage. And the third stage is putting it in models, stuff like that. And what this study also found out is that most of the utilization across countries in Asia and Pacific are the first and second stages. And the third stage are mostly done by Western countries. And for Thailand, if you use these stages as the benchmark, the case of Thailand is that we are mostly also using it in a first and second stages, as the study found. So basically, NTA is not just the figures that you normally see, the most important graphs or whatever, you can also, there's so many ways for you to play with the data and show it or inform public about certain things, right? So the graph here on the left basically sort of inform public. We use that to put it in our publication, I think the quarterly report, to show the public, like, if you want to raise a child from 0 to 21 years old, you need about 2 point something million baht ready, you know, for those 21 years. And similarly, if you want to plan for your retirement, if you want to retire at 60 for case of Thailand, and you want to live for another 20 years or so, which is a life expectancy in Thailand as well, and you will need another about 2.9 million baht to prepare for your retirement. And these are sort of the things that you can use the NTA to inform the public of what they need to prepare for, you know. And also what we did is, similarly as Nicole has mentioned, when you, the modifications include like disaggregations by gender, regions, income groups, and when you disaggregate them into different groups, the graphs also shows you, gives you more in-depth of what the patterns differs between different groups. And these sort of have a very good policy implications for how you want to formulate policies, design it in a way that are suitable for each different groups in the society. Another ways that we also do is, you know, we did some extension, as I mentioned. This was in the background paper for population plan. And so we did some simulation of what would happen to aggregate consumption and income if you move from the demographic structure of current to the 2040, and then also did some of the changes in, you know, like assumptions to like, what would happen if you raise the retirement age? What would happen if you increase the productivity? And what would happen if you do both? Something like that. And that's sort of give policy options or whatever to policymakers. And the fourth one is that basically we followed the NTA cookbook, which I think is the second NTA manuals that are coming out. And we sort of follow all those 20 recipes and to see how it looks like for Thailand. And so basically, as I mentioned, it seems like in Thailand, the NTA has already institutionalized into the NESDC's work. But the institutionalization hasn't been as smooth as we thought it would be. We actually went through the period in which the staff to do the NTA went down from 10 to 2. and then we sort of got the whole team back, building it back up. And so basically what we learned from these experiences are basically, you know, first of all, I think first and foremost is that the concept and the features of NTA is really important and critical for national planning, you know, preparing for the aging transition in Thailand. So even though it comes down to like 2 steps, the importance of the concept and the features of NTA sort of bring us back up because our executives and policymakers want to see what the impacts or what the figures would be, you know, and that's why we keep on making the NTAs in Thailand. So of course we would need also, you know, like continuous commitments from executives. And along that line, we also have good supports from experts in academia, you all probably know Ajahn Chalermpon from the Population Institute in Thailand. And so during the time when we were struggling within the NESDC, Dr. Chalermpon, of course, he knew how important the NTA was. So he sort of came in at the right time, continuing on the NTA production and all that. So we got that kind of support. Also, once the NTA calculation is still continuing in NESDC, the experts' help was pretty much on how to apply that to policies, and for that he gave us like many good ideas on how to use the NTA. So that's another very important factor. And last but not least is the continuous support from the UNFPA, namely Ajahn Wasana, because she's been, UNFPA Thailand, and when she moves to the UNFPA APRO, she's also continued to support the Thailand team. And so basically, I think that's the achievements that you see. We still have challenges, and mostly I think it resembles what we've been talking ever since this morning. The communication to policymakers are really one of the main challenges. NTA is really important and is a very good and rich in data and knowledge that it gives. But once you try to explain the NTA to policymakers who don't really have an economic background or something like very good academic background, it becomes a little bit of a challenge. And then of course there are like resource limitation, data issues. I think all of the countries are facing, but even with that challenge, I think there's also a way forward. The advocacy, I think, for Thailand, the UNFPA has taken a lead on how to simplify it. It comes up with a lot of like infographics, video clips, and many ways to simplify it, and also trying to link users with us so that we know what they need and how to make the NTA in a most efficient sort of way. Another idea that we've been talking at the NESDC is to set up a committee that is not only us, the producer of the NTA, but also the users, so that we get to talk more on how we can use the NTA in the most efficient way. And lastly, the modifications, extensions for policy users, talking about like simulations for policies. Ajahn Chalermpon has already done some of the simulations on like scenarios of if you change micro simulations on what would happen if you change the conditions of OH allowances to reduce the OH poverties, like elderly poverties, like what are the different scenarios and what are the different results. So those are very interesting, and we're thinking of proposing that to the government. Also, the DSG has taken that initiative. And disaggregation by poverty statuses, so comparing NTAs between the poor and the non-poor. And also, of course, the NTTA with Gretchen has just recently shed light on how to do that without the time use survey. So yeah, that's pretty much sum up my presentation for the kids of Thailand. Thank you so much.